So what's worse than bad drivers? Is it self-driving cars that ignore traffic laws? No. I mean, that might be a close second, but it's actually Revavroom. So jokes aside, I think Revavroom could be fun. I'm also going to butcher this name a lot during this video. I'm calling it right now. Unfortunately, Revavroom does not quite have the move pool there, but it does have some fun stats. It also has some great abilities. Steel Poison is a relatively unique typing. Before this evolutionary line came out between Vroom and Revavroom, we haven't seen Steel Poison before. It is a weirdly durable typing, though, because it has four times resistances to Grass, Fairy, and Bug. It's immune to poison. It resists Dragon, Ice, Flying, Normal, Rock, and Steel. It has one weakness to Fire and then four times weakness to Ground. If you slap an air balloon on this thing or teach it Magnet Rise, which I think it gets, maybe. Anyways, if you have a means of getting rid of the ground weakness, Steel Poison is a relatively awesome type with only just that fire weakness, like I said. So, what went wrong? Well, it's mostly the move pool. Unfortunately, Revavroom does not have the deepest move pool, but I still think this thing can be fun to use. Poison types and steel types both are probably going to see an upsurge in usage once the Teal Mask comes out. The legendary 3 Pokemon, the Loyal 3, they're all part poison, and on top of that, I'm pretty sure their ability Toxic Chain also has the ability to potentially toxic poison anything it hits, regardless of whether it's a physical contact move or a special move. I'll have to double check that on Cerebi, but yeah, that is wild. So having some poison immunity could be relatively handy depending on how popular those three are. So just quickly jumping into Cerebi here to look at the Loyal 3's ability, Toxic Chain. This ability may badly poison the opponent when the user lands a move against them. It does not specify whether or not this has to be physical or special or a contact move, which means a heavy blow to stall teams. So poison types and steel types like Revavroom might actually see an upsurgence. Or we could just see one of those two types get an upsurgence in Terra options. But yeah, anyways, just keep that in mind going forward. In terms of stat breakdown here, Revavroom has base 80 HP, 119 attack, which is a relatively solid number right there, 90 defense, 54 special attack, 67 special defense, which the special side of the Revavroom here is not going to be doing that much, but that's okay. We do have that base 119 attack, and plus we have base 90 speed. Now, at first glance, base 90 speed does not look the fastest, but Revavroom does get access to Shift Gear, which is a fun Steel-type status move here, where you can increase your speed stat by 2 stages and your attack stat by 1 stage. Revavroom also has a signature move called Spin Out. Spin Out is a base 100 Steel-type attack that lowers the user's speed by 2. It's basically like for speed what overheat is to special attack. Now, what you could do is you could go Shift Gear with Revavroom and then get that +2 and then go for the Spin Out. But what I was thinking here too is the Eject Pack item might be fun to switch Revavroom in with, or rather out with, because what happens here is if you have your stats get lowered, you automatically switch out. So you could go for that Spin Out, land heavy damage, especially if you go Terra Steel, land some major damage into a target, have your eject pack activate as soon as your speed gets lowered, and then you safely switch out and reset your speed stat. That could be relatively handy. On top of that, we also get access to Stab Gunk Shot. And while the accuracy at 80 is a little bit questionable, you can work around this, whether you do this with either another item, whether you want to run a wide lens to increase your accuracy, if you want to use gravity on a partner Pokemon to lower the evasion of the entire field and therefore increase the accuracy of Gunk Shot, you could definitely do that as well. The nice thing here about being both a steel type and a poison type is you are definitely a designated fairy killer with Revavroom. And if you're running a shift gear set, you're definitely getting an attack boost as well as a +2 speed. A little bit of redirection support could be relatively handy as well. But what I was thinking here with this first set here is we have the spin out, we have the gunk shot, we have the eject pack item, and the assurance attack as well. So basically, for those of you who may not know, assurance is a base 60 powered dark type move that doubles in power if the target was already damaged. Now, at base 90 speed with no speed boosts, it's very likely that you can hit a target before Revavroom moves, because 90 on its own without any boosts or tailwind, anything like that, very possible to outspeed a base 90 Pokemon. But what I was thinking here is if you are running something with speed on Revavroom, whether it be a Choice Scarf or Shift Gear, you could go for, like, say, maybe a priority attack like Ice Shard, do a little bit of chip damage, and then have Revavroom come in and with that base 120 power dark type move, now that the power of assurance has doubled, you could definitely do that. But as I mentioned with shift gear, let's take a quick look at that as well. So we get +2 speed, +1 attack. We could take spin out off if we wanted to. This thing does get Iron Head, which is a nice saving grace. If you want to run a shift gear set, you could run Iron Head instead of spin out. You could definitely keep gunk shot as well. And then as far as your other moves go, I definitely recommend running protect on this thing if you're playing in double battles. Having access to protect to keep Revavroom a little bit safe and healthy could be handy. You could potentially set up a Shed Tail with Warform or Cyclizar as well to get a substitute out there for Revavroom, and then that way you could set up safely behind that with shift gear as well. Or you could use a redirection support, whether it be Rage Powder or Follow Me. You could do that with Amoonguss or Volcarona on the Rage Powder side. You could do Follow Me with Indeedee or Mousehold. Luckily, too, with the Teal Mask, the Clefairy line is coming back, so you can do this with an Eviolite Friend Guard Clefairy, which has been around for a little while now, or you can use Clefable. You could definitely use the redirection support that way. It's definitely optional, or it's definitely an option. Now, as far as other coverage moves go, if you don't want to double down on your stabs, you have Body Slam. Body Slam is a base 85 normal type attack that could spread paralysis, which could be handy. You have Facade in case you get burned, which is relatively solid normal type damage as well. Unfortunately, Flash Cannon's not going to do us that great. Iron Defense, it's a status move, so no damage there. Unfortunately, because of how low your special attack stat is, Flash Cannon does no good. Overheat does no good as well. If you're worried about accuracy on Gunk Shot, you could go Poison Jab. That could be a little bit more reliable as well, especially running that shift gear and getting your +1 attack. And yeah, really, this is the list. This is the list of notable moves on Revavroom. Now, you could run Zen Headbutt for some psychic type coverage that is handy, but let's take a look at what Smogon deems as the usually useless moves, because there's not a whole lot. Oh, look, there's Assurance. Yay. But anyways, there's that. There's Bulldoze, which you could use that as a little bit of support because it is a field lowering speed move right there for anything that's grounded. So Bulldoze, you could use that as a little bit of support. You're not definitely doing major damage with it by any means, but that is there. You have Gyro Ball, which in a weird situation, if you have spin out and you didn't know what else to put on there, you could maybe make a case for Gyro Ball, but I'd rather not. There's regular Headbutt, but Body Slam and Facade are both much better moves. You got Heavy Slam, you got Giga Impact and Hyper Beam. Giga Impact is big normal type damage at the cost of losing a turn, and Hyper Beam is the special variant, so you know that terrible special attack stat is not going to be doing you any favors right there. Lick, again, pretty useless, but hey, there's Magnet Rise that I wasn't 100% certain about in the intro. And yeah, that unfortunately that's really the list. As far I really was not joking when I said the move pool is shallow. Like, you could probably stand in a puddle of this and not get your feet wet, but hey, let's talk about something else here. Some saving graces for Revavroom, the abilities. So you have access to Overcoat, which makes you immune to powder moves. It also protects you from sandstorm chip damage as well, which could be handy if you're playing with a sand team. Maybe you want to put this poison and steel sweeper on the team, and then that way you hit ice types super effectively, you hit fairy types super effectively. Those would be two big typings right there that could give you some trouble, because the primary sandstorm setter usually tends to be Tyranitar on sand teams, and Tyranitar is worried about fairies. Well, you have Revavroom right there. Now, if Excadrill comes back, unfortunately, this thing is not going to have a slot on your team, but I digress. You could definitely do something like that. So our other ability here on Revavroom is Filter. Filter is a nice ability, usually better on bulkier mons than Revavroom, because basically what it does is it reduces the amount of damage taken from super effective hits. So basically here, Revavroom would take 75% of the damage from a super effective hit as opposed to the full 100%. Now, if Revavroom was a middle stage Pokemon, well, one, we wouldn't be talking about this, but two, if it was a middle stage evolution and it was able to hold the Eviolite, then this would go dramatically up in usage. But unfortunately, I think Overcoat is probably going to be the better ability to run on Revavroom, because the other thing too, aside from being able to be immune from the sandstorm and powder moves, is you got to remember that Spore is a powder move that is a super reliable means of putting Pokemon to sleep. So unfortunately, Filter is going to be overshadowed by Overcoat in this situation. Now, you could run a Choice Scarf set as well, and then you could run Iron Head and Gungshot. If you want to run Spin Out, you definitely could, but you would be under the risk of going -2 on your speed. So that's why I was thinking Iron Head. If you want to play the accuracy game, you could go with Gungshot right there. Bulldoze, like I said, that could be really good support, especially if you have a bulky weakness policy bond that you just want to hit yourself, and then that way you set them up to +2. And then on top of that, Revavroom does get Parting Shot. Parting Shot is a great utility move. It naturally switches Revavroom out, and on top of that, it lowers the attack and special attack of the target by 1 stage. This could make Revavroom really handy for making opponents a little bit weaker on the offensive front. And then that way you don't have to worry about their damage output into your partner Pokemon. On top of that, some other status moves that Revavroom does get that can be handy. It gets Haze, which eliminates all stat changes. So you could run that either on Revavroom itself on a non-choice scarf set, and then that way you can clear your own speed drops, or more notably, if you have a Golden Go that's been going for Make It Rain, well, now you can clear those negative drops that way. Now, if you wanted to use Haze to undo spin out speed drops, I would definitely recommend running Haze on a partner Pokemon like Murkrow. That would definitely be a good thing right there. Now, you could also go, say, Torment. Torment makes it so that the target can't select the same move twice in a row. So if you just took a gnarly hit off of something like, say, Chi-Yu off of Heat Wave, and say maybe Revavroom dodged it, but Revavroom's partner took a lot of damage, you could lock them out of Heat Wave for back-to-back Heat Waves, and then that way Chi-Yu has to either switch out, because typically they tend to be choiced, or they have to go for a different attacking move. That could be a thing as well. So as far as some other status moves go too, just right quick, you could go Poison Gas or Toxic. And the reason why I bring up both of these is Poison Gas is a spread move that poisons. Now, it's regular poison, and Toxic, on the other hand, is toxic poison, so it badly poisons the target. It's single target, and it gets worse over time. So you could do that too, and then whittle them down that way, especially if Revavroom has bulky partners. That could be a fun option. On top of that too, nothing wrong with a Choice Scarf Taunt. It's fast, it shuts things down, and because it's not Prankster, Dark types do have to be weary of that. But yeah, anyways, that's the big thoughts on Revavroom right now. Like I said, the move pool isn't the biggest move pool there is. Hopefully with the DLC, we get some fun additions to Revavroom's move pool, and then that way it can do some things as well. But with what it currently does have, I think you can make it work in particular situations. Jokes aside about this thing being bad, I would probably put it maybe C tier if I had to put it on a tier list. But yeah, I'd say maybe C tier, C plus, B minus, something like that. Anyways, guys, I hope you like this Poison Steel car. I will see you next time